It's time for a Drummer Nation. Welcome to Drummer Nation, the show where drummers talk drums. If you make music by hitting something, this is the place for you. Today's guest is Todd Sucherman. Early in his career, Todd was a first call studio ace, but is now best known for his work with the band Styx, where he has held down the drum chair for some 21 years and counting. The band has a new album, The Mission, which is getting rave reviews. As an educator, Todd is an in-demand clinician, and his award-winning DVD and companion book, Methods and Mechanics, remain bestsellers. We'll touch on all of that and ask about his personal playing style after this word from Sabian. The former Crescent Vanguard series are now widely available as part of the legendary Sabian HH models. HH cymbals are traditionally hand-hammered into shape and sound by Sabian craftsmen. Each cymbal receives between 2,000 and 4,000 hammer blows, resulting in increased musicality, tone and complexity, and unmatched sonic texture favored by drummers in the know for generations. Find out more about the Vanguard series and all other Sabian models at Sabian.com. Todd Sucherman, welcome to Drummer Nation, and thank you for doing my show.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've been trying to hook up for a long time, but you're a busy man.
Well, it's good to be busy.
Indeed. Let's back up for a brief second. I know you came from a musical family, right?
I did.
Your dad was a drummer?
Yeah, my father was a drummer. He was born in 1919, so he was playing clubs by the time he was 13 years old in the 30s. And he put himself through med school playing drums. He was a big band drummer. So he was a doctor, as a podiatrist, and a drummer at the same time. And for years and years, for 18 years, he was one of the house drummers at the Chez Paris nightclub in Chicago, which is like that's where all the big stars and the singing stars, the big acts would come in, and the comedians and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So he had a double life as a musician and a doctor.
That's interesting. Now that must have had a big impact on your musical knowledge, the sort of filing drawer we all draw from. You know all the big band music, right?
I know a lot of it. I mean, but I also grew up in the era of rock too, because I had two older brothers that still are musicians, and my mother was musically inclined. And I mean, I remember when I was a baby, my mother came home with Chicago 2, that record, and that changed my life. So there was always music coming from the different rooms of the house, whether it was Led Zeppelin or Count Basie or Beethoven or Chicago or Kiss or whatever. It was Miles Davis. It was always music, and it was always a lively dinner table. It was never like, well, son, what did you learn in school? It was always a comedy and bits and music. And when I was very, very young, I didn't realize what a special card I'd been handed in life. I'd go to other friends' homes and I'd be like, "What are your instruments?" It didn't dawn on me that was special to have a piano and instruments on the wall, the bass guitar and drums. And I go to someone else's home and they didn't even have a piano, and I think, what the hell's wrong with you people?
That's similar to my experience. My dad was a singer and a guitar player, and when I came home with a Chicago record, kind of the opposite. I think it was CTA. He said, "Oh, you dig that? How about this?" And he played the Kenton Band for me. And a lot of West Coast jazz, and that led to big bands, and that's more me than you. I'd rather focus on you. So how did you end up working with Styx?
Well, that's quite a jump. It's quite a jump from 5 years old to 26. I was very fortunate.
The reason I do that is because you do a lot of lengthy interviews. Congratulations, you had a cover interview on Modern Drummer.
Oh, thanks.
My buddies over there do a great job. And I know there's a lot of stuff out there on you, so I'd like to just kind of hit and pick.
Yeah, I mean, it basically, it was the result of doing every gig that I possibly could and saying yes to just about everything I was asked to do for years and years and years. And that finally led to me being in the fortunate position where I was doing a lot of recording sessions in Chicago. And a lot of there was some record work, but a majority of the work was jingles, music for radio and television commercials. And that was really the upper echelon of players in town were doing that. And when you do that, you have drum sets and electronic drum sets and for whatever flying around the city, and that's handled by a cartridge company. They handle all the gear, so I would just walk into a session, my stuff set up, I go play, sign the form, they tear the drums down, they send it over to the next studio or send it home, whatever.
Mhm.
And this guy Keith Marks, who ran the cartridge company in Chicago. Um, I'd been using him for years, and he had worked with the band in the past, Styx, and he'd worked with a couple of the guys on some solo projects. And when in 1995, A&M Records wanted to put out the definitive Styx greatest hits, and the very first hit, "Lady," was on a different record label, and there was something where they couldn't get the rights for the original sound recording, so the band thought, well, let's just re-record the song,
Mhm.
and then it could be in the collection. And at that time, uh, the original Styx drummer John Panozzo apparently was not in very good health and was really sort of not physically able to play the drums. So they, in turn, called Keith Marks because he knew that he does all the sessions in town. Who should we call to play drums? So he recommended me, and that's really the genesis of the story. It was just a recording session. I went in and tape on the toms. I had to play like John, kind of like the record. I did sneak one thing in there. That was maybe a clue that it wasn't him. Um, but that was it. I was in and out in an hour. And hey, great to meet you guys. That was fun. And hey, Mom, I just worked with Styx. Uh, and then on to the next thing. And then the following year, in February of '96, they phoned me again saying, hey, we're doing a new song. We'd like you to play on it. And when I went into the studio this time, there's a bit more of a get to know you
Mhm.
thing. And it's not that they weren't nice before, but they were asking me questions. Where'd you grow up? Blah, blah, blah. And, I could tell they were sizing me up as a guy. And I thought something's brewing here. And 2 days later, they called and offered me the gig for the summer tour in 1996.
That's been more than 20 years.
21 years now. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be a summer fling, and it turned into the last 21 years.
Now, you had a peculiar situation in that you had to come in and cop the gig the way it was done. People were used to hearing all those hits, but then interject Todd Sucherman over time, right?
Well, no one ever told me what to play or what not to play at any time. So it was nice to have that freedom, and they obviously had a level of trust and respect for me coming in. But I was never told to play it like the record. Now, what my musical instincts tell me is, well, it's a very busy gig. John Panozzo was a very active drummer for a guy that had limited technique, and I mean no disrespect when I say that. I mean it's kind of like a step towards the Keith Moon type thing in a way. It was not a boom whack boom whack type of gig. There's always lots of activity, so I had to go in. And John left very cool templates for me to play in that flavor, but maybe hippen up some of the ideas, modernize some of the things, maybe play some things more subtext that maybe drummers or maybe astute musicians would pick up on, but it wouldn't draw attention to me. It would not. It would not rip the layperson out of the dream of them seeing the song that or hearing the song that they know and love. It still had to have that flavor, but maybe just a couple little extra spices in there because I never wanted to pull the attention on me for that.
I hear what you mean because if you're playing like a 16th note groove where you could get away with going, you've always got something else going on in there. There's accents on the hi-hat, there's notes on the tom, there's some double bass
Ghost
hits,
notes on the snare drum, just a little extra,
a little something, something.
a little drop of hot sauce in there or something.
Exactly. Now, the band is considered progressive rock. I know you won an award from, was it Modern Drummer or Drum as best progressive rock drummer?
It was a modern drummer a couple years ago.
Congratulations on that.
15.
What I was getting at is what do you mean? What does that mean to you when they say progressive rock?
Well, the kind of funny thing is I won rock drummer in 2009, and then they changed the categories, and I'm a little squirmish because I don't feel I'm in the same progressive category of a Mangini or a Miniman or Gavin with Porcupine Tree. I mean, it definitely would be progressive light in comparison to that. but the band certainly had the progressive leanings with some of their 70s material, certainly Grand Illusion, Pieces of Eight, and then they one of the band members is sort of pulling them into more of a lighter pop realm, which back then, sort of confused some of the core fan base because they're the kind of like what happened to the art rock and songs about goblins and stuff like that, Um, but it's yeah. I mean, I look, if anyone likes what I do, I'm deeply flattered and thrilled, and I just do what I do, and people like it, people don't like it. It's art, it's subjective. There's going to be yeah, there's going to be these and there's going to be these
Right.
no matter what. So it is what it is.
Labels are pigeonholing. I didn't really want to put you in a pigeonhole. I just kind of interested in your take on that. Now, the band has not exactly rested on its laurels. You guys have a brand new record out called The Mission or Mission,
The mission, yeah.
and it's getting rave reviews.
It's really it's gratifying and flattering and kind of funny because Styx has always been a kind of a punching bag for the critics, and I have yet to read one bad review. I mean, from a real reviewer and on a real paper, real blog, because it's undeniably really, 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 really good. Again, it's art. You may not like it. I mean, there's people out there that don't like Pet Sounds and Sergeant Pepper. What are you going to do? But you can't say that it's bad or sad or a shell of the former selves. Like we're all really proud of this record, and I got to hand it to Tommy Shaw. I mean, the last studio record we did was 14 years ago, and that was written collectively, where we were all in the room, all looking at each other with blank faces, and who's got something, and jam on a riff, and that could be a great way to do it, but it could also be very laborious. It's a laborious birth. Tommy really picked up he really had the gumption he had this vision and he had the storyline, and he picked up the ball and ran with it. Um,
Is there a NASA connection there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this came about where we were invited by Dr. Alan Stern, and who's the director of the New Horizons team, just as it was doing the flyby of Pluto, and they named Pluto's fifth moon Styx.
Right.
And we just happened to be in the D.C., Virginia area on a day off. They invited us. We went down there, and we got to see these pictures 2 days before it was, sent out to the press. And so this friendship with these brilliant scientists sort of began, and it started, Tommy thinking about some sort of space travel. And I know that it'd be so easy for critics to go, "Oh my God, a concept record about space travel from Styx in 2017. Oh, they were just salivating to rip the shit out of it."
Mm.
But they kind of can't. There was one review that started, a concept record about space travel from Styx in the year 2017. There's not one thing about this that should work. Not one thing. And yet it does.
Magic.
And the cool thing that a lot of people are latching onto is the fact that it sounds like a Styx 77, 78 era record because it was recorded all analog, 2-inch tape, all vintage gear, no digital plugins on anything, any rack stuff. It was like the old tube stuff, and so it has that creamy analog familiar sound, like someone kind of coming up and putting a blanket on you. And to be honest, I was a little taken aback at how far they went in that direction, because when I heard the mixes, I thought, oh my God, the drums are like the softest thing on here. Did they not like what I did? But that was sort of the appropriate 70s, where just the drums are a little pillowy, a little fluffier, and a little further back. The bass drum isn't shaking your car rearview mirror.
Mm.
It had this vintage sound, and they nailed it in spades. I got to hand it to them.
Well, I won't jive. You haven't heard it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. The other thing,
If you're a vinyl guy, you check it out on vinyl.
I am a vinyl guy, yeah, for the warmth, like you're talking about. You also have some award-winning instructional methods and mechanics 1 and 2.
Yes.
And congratulations on how well they've done. Now, I'm going to cop again and say I haven't seen it. I won't jive you, but I have watched you playing a good bit, and I want to make some observations and see if that's consistent with when I watch you play, man. Your trunk, your torso is still and quiet. You're within yourself. Your playing is fluid. It's all economically placed. The motions are smooth and beautiful. The grip is loose. The sound is big. Um, is that part of your concept? Am I right about those things?
Yeah, thank you. First off, my torso is still because I'm probably still digesting dinner. Um, but yeah, no, it's important for me to have good posture and not slouch, shoulders down, loose, and I can get a lot of power by being loose and having that sort of that whipping motion where the stick follows along with whatever I'm doing. And so far it seems to have worked pretty well for me. I've been relatively injury or annoyance free all these years, and I've been playing since I was 2 years old. So that's like 46 years now. That's a lot of repetitive motion things happening.
And you're playing hard on those on that band. I notice you use a lot of match grip. I mean traditional grip, but
Mostly.
it's so loose, and you're not hurting yourself, all right?
No, I mean, I still sort of tape up my hands just because I do have sensitive hands and I like to keep them baby smooth. Um, but I'm, yes, I'm playing hard, but I'm not playing as hard as I used to because I think that drums and cymbals only get so loud. And at some point, if you really beat the hell out of a drum, you're just kind of getting a sound force pressure that the microphone is reading. And even big 19, 20, 22-inch crash cymbals, if you really rip the hell out of them, they sound like ripping newspapers. They're screaming and not singing.
Exactly.
So I always kind of hit them with a glancing blow a little bit, even if it looks like I'm coming straight down. At the very end, there's a little bit of that.
Mhm.
Um,
It also looks like there's a looseness in your grip too when you're hitting, like almost it's
yes.
back here more than it is up front. Is that
Well, yeah, and for the power, I mean, Steve Smith calls it the Tony Williams grip, where the stick. Actually, I have a stick here. Should I get a stick?
sure, man?
I got a stick right over here. Wait, hold on.
I wonder where the hell he is. He's on the road. Looks like a hotel room somewhere.
Wait, right here.
Where
Right
are you?
here.
Where are you anyway?
I'm in an undisclosed hotel room in the Niagara Falls, New
Uh,
York area.
all right. You can hold the stick real tight and hit a drum, and it's thunk, instead of boom, letting.
I was I was just talking about that with various students at the drum fantasy camp last week or 2 weeks ago that I taught, and you can hear it if you really grip the stick. You can hear the sound difference on a pad. You can hear the sound difference on a drum, and it's so important to have a space between your thumb and your first finger there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I can't see. You can't do that for 10 minutes if that thumb and first finger are closed because all these muscles get tight. Holding it like this, all these muscles are loose, and then that way you're going to be able to play for a long time, fairly effortlessly.
That's great. That's the way I was taught. I had some good teachers, but don't you think a lot of the drum corps stuff is they're teaching that stiff?
Absolutely, and I know this is kind of could be a controversial thing, and I don't want to get anyone upset, but
No slight on
I,
anybody.
well, I think core is this, and playing drum set is this, and sort of nary the twain shall meet. It's an entirely different thing, just like playing a heavy metal solo on a flying V electric guitar versus playing like Segovia on a nylon string acoustic guitar. There are strings. Here are the notes. You do this, but it's a different thing. And you can't take the core thing onto a drum set and have it be good because the drum set's about freedom and looseness, and core is everyone gets exact stick heights. It's a uniformity and a conformity, almost to militaristic precision. So even though there's drumsticks and there's notes and there's whatever, technique wise, they're two very different things, and they don't really help each other, in my opinion.
You took the words out of my mouth. Military precision versus loose and flowing. Not that one's better than the other, but it's different techniques for different music.
There's two different things.
Hmm. Now let's talk about endorsement. I know you're with Pearl and Sabian a long time, right? We have the Sabian link in common because they bought my cymbal company.
Sure.
Great people up there, great products. I
Hmm.
know you do too. What's the biggest misconception of players about endorsements?
The biggest misconception about endorsements is, you know, like you see these guys at NAMM show, and it's like, you know, they're trying to score endorsements like that's going to do something for their career. No drum company, no cymbal company, no stick company, no head company is in the business of making you a star. Just because now you might have a deal on something or you might get something for free, you know, even, you know, having your little postage size photo in a catalog isn't going to mean that you're going to get a gig or you're going to pay your bills by playing the drums. So that is no uh, spike in the end zone. That's you don't win the game if you scored an endorsement. Like, yeah, it's nice, but I think that's a misconception that just because you're affiliated with the company, like, I'm on my way now. No, it's still entirely up to you to deliver the goods musically to anyone that you will play with. And it's up to you to deliver the goods to be a decent human being, to actually be around these other people for all the plane rides and the bus rides and the traveling and the hours at the gig and sitting at catering. Um, Endorsements have nothing to do with that. Basically, endorsements are like, if I got to go do a TV show, or if I got to fly and do something in Europe, I have someone I can call and say, I need some drums over there. Can you please help me? And then I have drums.
It's support, and also you're endorsing that product, and it's not the other way around. It's
Yeah, people think I'm endorsed by it. No, you endorse the product, not
exactly.
not the other way around. That's kind of drives me nuts when I hear that.
Me too. It also should be products you love. Um,
It has to be, and not only products that you love, but also people that I love too. Life is too short to be surrounded by people that I don't have a groove with, or people that I feel like I'm tugging on their pant string or pant, whatever. You know, going, oh hi, I was wondering if is it possible to.
mhm.
I don't need much. I'm not very demanding. I just need what I need to do my job, and I want people that are actually friends that I care about, that we can talk about other things beyond the AX38 clamp or whatever the gear. You know.
Funny story, when I had Boss for Cymbals, people shop for deals, right? And guys would come to the booth. I remember this story precisely. Hey, Boss for Cymbals, I've never heard of you guys. Who do I see about an endorsement? It's just a disconnect. They don't mean anything by it. They just don't know any better. So let me ask you about social media. Are you involved in that in a big way?
Yeah, I mean, I handle my own. You know, I have two Facebook pages. I got a personal page, and then when I saw that fills up at 5,000, I, you know, got a musician page, a like page,
Mm-hmm.
and I've recently been involved in on Instagram as well. And you know, it's a nice way to connect with people. It's a nice way to have people write you letters, or you know, reconnect from people that I worked with a long time ago, or people from high school or whatever. So yeah, you know, I think it's a fairly necessary evil in a way.
Well,
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's evil. Right now, there's a lot of evil.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. You're a wonderful musician. I just love.
Thank you, man.
I've had the experience of going to your home for a party at 1 year, and you have a beautiful home and a lovely family.
Thank you, man.
Continued success on the road with Styx and everything else you do, and let's do another one sometime soon, okay?
Absolutely, anytime, man. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for doing the show. If you're ever in Atlanta, call me and we'll hang, right?
I was just there.
I know I was out of town, or I would have hooked you.
Oh, that's right. I think you wrote me. Yeah.
I was sought you out. All right, brother. Take care of yourself, and thank you.
All right, cheers, man. See you later.
This is your host, Mark Lavospine, and I want to thank our friends at Atlanta Pro Percussion, Danette Classic Drums, Sabian Cymbals, and Classic Drummer Magazine.